Hey Buffs, in this week's edition of NewsTeam Boulder, we will be talking about walkouts held in Boulder Valley schools over recent shootings.
Later, we will see how new research has changed our understanding on the history of the horse in Americas.
And finally, we talk with CU athlete Meek Clifford on his academic journey. Good afternoon and welcome to NewsTeam Boulder. I'm Megan McPherson.
And I'm Leah Mayer.
We hope that everyone had a safe and relaxing spring break. How did you spend your week, Leah?
I went to beautiful Florida and enjoyed the warm weather. What about you?
I actually did the same thing. I'm so surprised we didn't see each other.
Can't believe it.
The beaches were amazing. Well, there's only a few weeks left until the end of the semester, so let's finish strong, Buffs. Now, let's get into this week's top stories.
School shootings have been an issue across the U.S. from some time now, and with those shootings happening closer and closer together, the call for gun reform has reached a critical mass across the U.S. This Wednesday, students across the nation walked out in protest of gun violence in schools, led by the organization Students Demand Action. Of the many students who participated in the walkout, students from 13 schools within Boulder Valley School District joined them. At Pearl Street Mall, they met up with students from Watershed School. Together, they combined their chants for gun reform while occupying space on Pearl Street Mall.
Why? We deserve to be safe, we deserve to be happy, we deserve to feel like we can go to school. We deserve to feel like we can go to school.
Students ended their rally circling back to Boulder Valley High School to continue their chants where they started in the courtyard.
People here are done with it. That people here are done with putting up with being scared to come to school and maybe have a shooter come in, and that's important because these are children. And
while the legislative change student called for hasn't happened quite yet, there was a shared sense of accomplishment across the courtyard Wednesday afternoon.
The spring election for CU student government is upon us. NewsTeam's Tessa Stigler tells us more.
I'm here at the student government offices at the University Memorial Center, which will be pretty busy today as the spring election voting period ends tonight at 8 p.m.
This election, students will be voting on 3 key components: the CU Tri-Executive Board, 4 representatives at large, and 3 potential constitutional changes.
So it's an uncontested election in terms of the candidates themselves, where with the reps who would be elected to the legislative branch and the tri-exec candidates who would be elected to the executive branch.
With the other 2 components of the election almost already guaranteed, students' impact comes down to these 3 potential constitutional amendments.
That first question has to deal with election schedule and code amendment process changes. 3 of the key components of this question are removing the fall election, removing the executive's ability to nominate an election commissioner, and allowing for the Legislative Council to review and amend the election code as needed. That second question has to deal with the creation of CU student government's combined statutes. 3 of those key components are simplifying and clarifying the bylaws of the 3 branches of the CU student government, establishing CU student government's combined statutes, and authorizing each branch to govern its internal affairs with supplemental bylaws. That last question has to do with democratization, structural changes, and constitutional changes. 3 of the key components to this question are democratizing the Legislative Council by allowing for an increased number of voting seats, streamlining the Legislative Council's ability to fill vacancies in the Representative Council, and reducing the threshold from 200 to 150 students for the initiation of a student assembly.
The current Tri-Executive Board has endorsed a no vote on all of those proposed amendments, but it's up to the students to make those key decisions. You can vote online by 8 p.m. tonight. For NewsTeam Boulder, this is Tessa Stigler. Back to you.
CU's annual Conference on World Affairs, CWA, begins next week. The conference, which is open to the public, features panel discussions among experts in international affairs and other areas, and has been hosted by the university since 1948. Notable past speakers include Arianna Huffington, Henry Kissinger, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Ted Turner. This year, CWA is celebrating their 75th anniversary. Nick Monroy is outside Mackey Auditorium to tell us more about what to expect.
The 75th Annual Conference on World Affairs kicks off next Wednesday and will take place from April 12th to 14th. We'll see CU play host to dozens of worldwide experts to give their opinions and solutions on the global climate crisis. The conference is open to the public and CU students do not need to register. Additionally, for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic, all sessions will be in person with remote options available. The keynote sessions will take place behind me here in Mackey Auditorium. To find out more and to see the full slate of events, go to colorado.edu/CWA. For NewsTeam Boulder, this is Nick Monroy.
Next up, we take a look at the spread of horses in the United States.
And later in the show, we catch up with the basketball player Nate Clifford about his time at CU.
A new study has found that horses have been spread throughout the United States longer than what was previously believed. Through a mixture of archaeology, DNA, and indigenous oral tradition, the researchers were able to piece together a more comprehensive history of the horse. It is now known that horses made their way out of west to indigenous tribes by the early 1600s, disproving the previous belief that horses came to native groups after the Pueblo Revolt. It is still unknown how horses made their way into these native cultures so early, but the research has become invaluable to our understanding of early American history.
Horses are deeply important to kind of the culture and social fabric of this part of the world. We really wanted to see whether there was something about the human horse story that we might be able to explore through an archaeological lens that might not have been captured in historical records.
This might have been a tool, scraper. It seems a little bit too dull to be like a blade.
We had a look at horse remains in museum collections across the western part of the United States to try to understand, is there pieces of that story that might be missed from European historical perspective? What we're seeing from the archaeological perspective actually aligns with a lot of kind of indigenous oral traditions. There's greater antiquity to the role of horses in native societies across the Great Plains. Those archaeological findings show us not just that horses were present in a particular spot at a particular time, but they show us that native folks were raising horses on their own, that those horses were integrated into cultural and ceremonial traditions.
The horse kind of became a sacred animal to us. They were valued, they were considered sacred, special. You know, there was a ceremony that revolved around horses.
Indigenous perspectives into interpretation of indigenous culture is absolutely crucial to getting the answer correct.
The involvement of the native people in the paper, that really means a lot to me. It lets us share our side of the story, our version, our perspective, and that's what you need to kind of paint a complete picture.
Passover started yesterday and continues until next Thursday. Also, Easter is this Sunday and Red Rocks is doing an Easter sunrise event. If you attend, make sure to get down there early to not miss the sunrise.
Any music fans tuning in? The students of CU's College of Music present works old and new for their degree qualifying recitals tonight at 7:30 p.m. The recitals will be taking place throughout this month at the IMIG Music Building on campus, are free and open to the public, and are also available to live stream online at the link on your screen. And finally, the CU Environmental Center and Boulder Food Rescue have partnered up to provide fresh food from Whole Foods for free. This event is open to all and will take place tomorrow from 1 to 1:45 p.m. at the UMC.
After the break, Jessica Perani breaks down the upcoming weather forecast.
Don't go anywhere, Buffs.
Hey Buffs, with some cold weather at the beginning of the week, let's take a look at the weather report for this weekend. Today is sunny with a high of 59 and a 30% chance of humidity. However, with the wind, it's making it feel just a little bit colder. Tonight, temperatures will drop to 29 degrees, but luckily there is a 0% chance of snow. On to the Colorado forecast. Temperatures are expected to be mild, ranging in low 30s and high 50s in the Rocky Mountain area, to around 62 degrees in the Boulder, Denver area, rising to the 60s in the eastern part of the state and low 70s in the southern part of Colorado. Looking forward to the national forecast, low pressure systems moving across the northwestern and central states are bringing high levels of precipitation with high chances of thunderstorms. Low pressure systems moving from the northwest down to the Midwest, bringing winds. There is a tropical low pressure system into the southern United States, bringing rain and thunderstorms and some possible flash flooding in Louisiana and Mississippi. On the west coast, there is some light precipitation, perfect for those spring flowers and a great start to April showers. Looking at our 4-day weather forecast, temperatures will stay in the higher side of the weekend with cloudy skies tomorrow and a high of 62 and a low of 39. We will see some sunshine again with partly sunny skies and a high of 64, dropping down to 40 degrees later that night. Monday will be sunny once again with a high of 69 degrees and a low of 39. Throughout the 5-day forecast, there might be some wind, but luckily there is finally a 0% chance of snow. Now let's take a look at the snow-based levels on the mountain this weekend. It looks like it's still a great weekend for skiing with relatively high levels of powder across Colorado ski resorts. And Copper with a 70-inch base, A-Basin with a 69-inch base, Brecken with a 66-inch base, and then Vail with a 74-inch base. This weekend all around will be a little warmer, but throughout the rest of April we will still see some snow showers. Overall, a great time to get in the spring air and enjoy the weather before it gets cold again. That's all the time we have for weather today. Get excited for some warm weather soon, Buffs. Stay tuned for after the break, where I have a story about one of CU's best basketball players and how he's changing the narrative about communication studies.
The communication studies major is plagued by stereotypes of being an easy degree path for student athletes in college. Nick Clifford of the CU men's basketball team is one of many NCAA athletes with career goals outside of professional sports, working to change this baseless stereotype. NewsTeam Boulder's Jessica Periani recently sat down with Clifford, and she has more.
Technique is one of the main things basketball players here at CU focus on every day in practice. Dominique Clifford, otherwise known as Nick Clifford, is a junior here at CU Boulder, studying communication and seems to be always on the court.
I just found a passion for it early on. I had my little mini hoop and used to play on that. My first word was ball. So it just came naturally to me, and I loved it ever since I was a little kid.
Nick Clifford is a dedicated basketball player and is inspired every day by his friends and family.
Definitely playing for my mom, my dad, who's been there for me ever since I've been a kid and supported me through my passion being basketball. My grandma, she lives with us and she works every day. Just seeing how hard she works every day, I want to make it to the next level to allow her to lay back and relax and not have to work.
Nick is a dedicated player, not only on the court, but off the court as well. He is a communication major and a leadership minor, which means he has a lot on his plate. But unfortunately, there has always been a stereotype surrounding players in college. That stereotype is that communication is the easiest degree you can go into. Here at CU, communication is a very popular major with players because it has a lot of options for players. The communication department makes sure it has a challenge for each player individually and makes sure they know where they want to go after college. Take Nick, for example.
Communication, I feel like, has a lot of options to go into in the future, and it fit all my interests. Whenever I'm done playing basketball, probably get into broadcasting or something like that, working for ESPN or Sports Center. I think that would be pretty cool, just staying around the game of basketball, debating sports and things like that. I definitely want to play basketball as long as I can, and then see where the rest takes me after that.
Nick is just one of many students here at CU that are working hard in the communication department and trying to beat those stereotypes. I'm Jessica Periani, reporting for NewsTeam Boulder.
Perfect. Leah, I don't know about you, but the only thing that is keeping me going right now this next month is the sun that's in the forecast next week.
I'm so excited for a break of snow and to finally have some good UV index.
Me too. Let's hope that we get some weather for tanning as well.
Finally.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of NewsTeam Boulder. If you celebrate, we hope you have a very happy Easter on Sunday. We'll see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Have a great weekend, Buffs.